Stall. But so many players pay for it. Some game developers have gotten so outrageous, they'll even charge you to save your game. And that's not even the greediest thing I've found in games. Metal Gear Solid 5 is by all things considered incredible, but it has one of the worst examples of pay-to-win. So it's a single-player game, but there's online features that invite other players to invade them up. Now players are accusing them of doing this for profit, because you see, you get these bases called pubs, and they're your central way to store items and resources. However, enemy players can straight up raid it and steal your stuff while you're not playing. And of course, there is a way to prevent it. Simply open your wallet and you'll get MV coins to buy insurance. Now, in the defense, you can get coins from daily bonuses, but it's a grind, and it forces most people to just spend real cash. Now I gotta talk about Tekken 7, which might have the most disgusting microtransaction I've ever heard of. In fighting games like this, each character has an advantage based on their animations. Basically, you can throw a quick punch and the time it takes is different for every fighter. Well, if you want to actually know this information and discover how many frames are in each attack, Bandai Namco literally charges you $3 for it. If you're slightly a competitive player, you had to get this. It was such a greedy decision that the DLC was bombarded with negative reviews. A little bit of fate for stores there, but another situation happening in the industry is $80 games. Nintendo was the first publisher to come out and start doing it, and now we're basically all worried that developers the players. And not to mention, Resident Evil is historically a third-person franchise, so it felt a little weird to force people to pay just to unlock this. A lot of players consider third-person an accessibility option because it helps with motion sickness, so it's just a slap in the face. Now,
Yo, I know you've been seeing all the news about the crazy stuff these celebrities are doing at those parties with the baby oil.
Now, first person, it also has downsides that scam you. In Black Ops 6, the developer sold a $20 weapon called the Occult. You check out the scope, you'll quickly realize they overlooked simple design when making it.
But the second that I start firing, the blueprint all of a sudden blocks my view, and it is incredibly hard to see, and it's just not practical.
The iron sights are straight up laughable, but none of the devs even test this. Now, I will admit, microtransactions in a multiplayer FPS, they're expected at this point. What you don't want to see are payments thrown into a $60 single-player game. Yet in Assassin's Creed, this has been happening for years. Well, nowadays, it's usually cool outfits or cosmetics, not a quick level boost. It's just absurd. And this gets even crazier when you hear Tales of Arise sells DLC as DLC. That's right, buy the premium travel pack, which gives you more effective cooking and crafting, but also 30% off general store items. Yes, you can spend real money to make further spending a little bit cheaper, and most people think this is a bargain because the developers also made everything really expensive in game. So, instead of getting a discount, you're really just getting what the prices should be. If you're wondering why Multiverse is shut down, here's one of the reasons. The devs got stupidly greedy. Like, you know how Jason Voorhees and Arya Stark from Game of Thrones are both in the game? Pretty cool, right? Not to mention, you can play as both of them for relatively cheap things like battle passes and the free currencies, but this is where things got interesting. You can spend real money on costumes for these characters, and Multiverses came up with the most random collab of all. Arya with a Jason hockey mask. It's interesting, but this sets you back $30. Oh, hell no! You can't argue some of these games have just been overpriced rather than outright greedy, but when I show you what's in the first Descendant, I don't think anyone will disagree this is straight up theft. When you spend money on an outfit, you then unlock the ability to customize it through paint jobs. Except you then have to spend money on the color you want, and once you've applied it, it only works for that specific item. So if you want to add that same color on the head rather than the body, tough luck, you're gonna have to buy it all over again. It's one of the greediest things I've ever seen in a game. And in my opinion, so is League of Legends Sanctum. Late last year, they introduced a way to get insanely rare skins through gacha. I know, but here's where it gets worse. Just like other gacha games like Genshin or Honkai Star Rail, you get a pity system where if you can't get the featured character after so many pulls, you're basically guaranteed to earn it. The problem is, League of Legends pity system is extra greedy. For a skin like Arcane Fractured Jinx, the chance of getting her is literally 0.5%. She's only guaranteed after 80 pulls. So that means some players have spent over $250 before they get her, which left fans furious. So a couple months later, in February, Riot heard all the backlash and were forced to make changes. Except the only changes were making the skin advertisements less invasive. Such a cringe situation. In more promising news, Black Ops 6 recently brought back a fan favorite mode for zombies called Grief. Basically, you have to outlast another team of players and can sabotage them with griefs, except with the new version, the developers let players use gobble guns. Yeah, and considering you could just spend a ton of real money on packing them on day one, now it's just personal. The community went up in... It's literally more expensive than the game itself, and there's a new one every couple of months. Who's buying this? Now, these stories, unfortunately, they only get worse. Let's talk about this charm in Overwatch 2 that costs... Do you remember where you were on April 4th, 2013? It was the day gaming Easter eggs changed forever. Yeah, Battlefield out of the Megalodon, something so iconic it got me thinking, what is the greatest video game Easter egg from every year? Expedition 33 has been taking the world by storm. While it has a pretty serious tone, there's an Easter egg that's the opposite. After completing Gestral Ascension, you can head to the beach where you'll find a bunch of platforms going up in the sky. Now, you probably already guessed it, but the whole thing is a reference to Only Up, and it is pretty difficult to climb just like the actual game. But make your way to the very top, and you'll be rewarded with an extremely rare outfit. And over in Battlefield 2042, Vance spotted a sign that warned him of sharks in the water. Now, nothing could be spotted, making us realize this might be the first step of a classic Easter egg. Searching around, they discovered multiple laptops you could actually pick up that would teleport to the shark side. And in true Battlefield tradition, it wasn't done there. Now you had to activate these in a secret order, then finally make 3 sacrifices to the ocean. All of this effort would unleash the one, the only Sharknado.
What the hell is even that?
While exploring Kobo and Jedi Survivor, you can find a cave that seems normal until you take a closer look and realize that's an invisible hole in the wall. It is just one of the game's many shortcuts, but usually these get you to an area quicker, whereas this one completely trolls the player. It forces you to cram yourself down a corridor for 5 straight minutes, and your reward for doing this? The world's strangest art class. Interesting. Horizon Forbidden West has a mysterious axe stuck in a tree, and if you scan it, you can follow this invisible path towards a secret totem. Here you'll find the man himself, Kratos, hiding in the snow, but it goes way further than this. There are 2 other totems belonging to Atreus, alongside Brock and Sindri. Once you've collected them all, you'll unlock an exclusive item, the God of War face paint. Another secret is the touching tribute around the Isle of Sea of Thieves. There are over 22 journals scattered in the world, and they belong to a pirate known as Glitterbeard. Reading through them, you'll learn about how he appreciates nature, kindness, and life in the sea. Only the most dedicated players were able to track them all down, and with only 1 remaining, they were told to head to Plunder Valley. Here, there was now a tree covered in bottles, and it was impossible to activate on your own. In order to proceed, 7 other players had to join in and celebrate the life of Glitterbeard. Now they all had to play instruments in the right location, triggering the most beautiful Easter egg of 2021. Entering the cave, they finally got their hands on the last journal, learning that Glitterbeard was the nickname of a real person, James White. He was a developer that worked at Rare, who sadly passed away in 2020. Thanks to this Easter egg, his co-workers made sure he would live on forever. And speaking of 2020, this was the year Modern Warfare got a reboot, and while many things were different, one tradition remained the same: teddy bears. Whenever people see these in Call of Duty, they immediately shoot them. And on the Isle 9 map, this would lead to a hilarious Easter egg. Yeah, this was an amazing roast for all those people who stashed toilet paper during lockdown. And it wasn't the only FPS to surprise players. Apex Legends fans noticed there were a ton of adorable toys on the map resembling the Loch Ness Monster. And even better, you can shoot these little guys on the kill feed to say a Nessie appears. Wipe out every single toy on the map, and it'll turn from a plushie to the real thing.
A Nessie surfaces. There he is! Oh, look at him! Yeah, we did it, dude.
Kinda reminds me of the greatest video game weapon in 2018. Battlefield 5 had these strange boxes on the map that pointed you in a certain direction. Now, of course, following these would lead you to a secret dig site. And as we all know, X marks the spot.
Oh, yeah.
2017 is the year gaming changed forever with Breath of the Wild, and hiding inside this world, you could find a man who made the mission possible. Satoru Iwata passed away in 2015, and at the time, Nintendo were in the middle of making a new Zelda. Now obviously, this was a monumental loss for the industry, and Breath of the Wild's director said, there were moments we'd come up with an idea which we'd be excited to talk to Iwata about, but then we remember he was no longer here. So when the game finally released 2 years later, it was only right to include a tribute to Iwata in the form of an NPC. He has the exact same haircut and glasses, with his quest description saying, this holy creature is a reincarnation of a sage that died on the lands it now protects. It's sometimes known by its other name, Satori. Now if you didn't know, Satori is derived from the name Sataru, easily making this the best Easter egg of 2017. But what about when developers want to pay tribute to their humble beginnings? Well, Uncharted 4 has an extremely hidden item that shocks players. By swinging into this small crevice, you can pick up the Wumpa Fruit from Crash Bandicoot. And yeah, it's even back in its full pixelated glory. But there was an Easter egg in 2015 that nobody discovered until 8 years later. The developers of The Witcher 3 kept claiming nobody had found their last secret. And it wasn't until 2022 when Latalis finally uncovered it. It all revolves around this character, Vivian, a woman who is slowly transforming into a bird due to a curse. Now once you get to the end of her quest line, there is an option to cure, but unfortunately, there's a problem.
The change is only irreversible. You'll probably also only have 7 years left to live, at the most.
Little do we know, he was not kidding. If you return to Vivian after 7 real-life years, you could watch as she drops dead on the spot. Now, the Talos Principle is known for its secrets, but the strangest one is hidden behind this door. At first it says entry denied, and if the stamp looks familiar, that's because it's from the iconic indie game Papers, Please. Most people would just walk away after this, yet if you come back after finding the approved stamp, the door will unlock. This sends you miles underground to a secret theater, and here you'll find the real developers waiting for a movie to start. And yeah, there is a movie.
Create a voiceover using your own voice. Customize with AI to fit any story. Connect your audience at scale. Try voices now.
The Fox and Star Wars parodies aside, you could just sit here and watch an actual short film where the main character is revealed to be Serious Sam. Now we're in 2013, and its greatest Easter egg is one of the most iconic in-game history. I'm of course talking about Battlefield 4's Megalodon. The community spent actual months trying to discover how to activate this, and when they finally learned the secret, we were all blown away. Yeah, it still might not be as famous as the year before, when Minecraft took over the world. Not only was it the game of 2012, it had an Easter egg that's still iconic to this day. All you had to do was simply rename a mob to Dinnerbone. Over The Witcher 2, fans are still laughing at this guy who faceplanted straight into the floor. This was an obvious jab to Assassin's Creed's Leap of Faith, but the devs clearly roasted the idea, showing exactly what would happen if you tried it. Personally, I love how the devs at Just Cause 2 designed an entire region of the map to be an Easter egg. You can't fly over here and scout the area, because your plane will immediately explode in the air. Now you're stranded, stuck on this mysterious island and terrified of huge forests. Seems familiar, right? Especially when you find things like this hatch in the ground, or an immortal figure that's followed by smoke. By now it should be pretty obvious the whole island's a reference to Lost. Arkham Asylum made waves across the world when it came out, and people were already desperate for a sequel. If only they knew what was hiding in the warden's office. If you sprayed explosive gel at this exact spot on the wall, it would reveal a secret room. And inside were plans for a giant prison in North Gotham known as Arkham City. Yeah, the announcement for the next game was hiding in here all along, and there was even concept art. But I have to award the best Easter egg in 2008 to World at War, for one reason. It turned into the most successful tradition in Call of Duty history. And yes, I'm talking about zombies. This entire mode was literally just a post-credits Easter egg, and fans loved it so much it spawned a whole genre. And another secret can be found hiding in Halo 3's title screen. This one took 9 years to discover, because it could only be done on a single day, December 25th. When pressing down both sticks on the controller, text appears saying Happy Birthday Lauren, a super sweet message from a developer to his wife. Hitman Blood Money remains one of the best games in the franchise for a reason. The levels are full of secrets, like the Opera Theater's basement. Down here, you can find 3 rats, and anyone who's freaked out by rodents risked blowing their cover just to shoot them. Instead of getting caught, though, they were given a keycard instead. It allowed them to get into this hidden locked door, getting access to the exclusive Rat Lounge. Here they play poker, eat pizza, drink soda, and even bet on their own Fight Club. Early in Resident Evil 4's story, you can discover a dog stuck in a bear trap. Saving him is the obvious thing to do, but what players did not expect was the dog to return the favor in a late-game boss fight.
Hey, how's that dog?
But I couldn't make this video without talking about the absolute classic Easter egg in San Andreas. If you grab a jetpack and make your way to the top of the Golden Gate Bridge, all you'll find is a simple message. Over in the Sands of Time, you can find an Easter egg without even starting the game. On the main menu, you can do a specific series of jumps and weapon moves to enter a secret level. The entire thing is an homage to the very first Prince of Persia. You can even find artifacts along the way like this sword. Once you make it to the end, you'll find a room filled with alcohol, cigarette boxes, and a huge painting on the wall. A sweet love letter from the developers to you, the Easter egg hunters. But what about when a secret falls right into your lap? Well, players can explore the land of Morrowind and suddenly find a wizard falling from the sky.
Oh my lord, what the hell is that?
Now, you could just ignore him and mind your own business, but everyone is curious enough to loot this guy. On his corpse, you'll find a spell that gives you a super jump. Okay, so it doesn't take a genius to figure out why this wizard fell to his death. But as always, players just feel like he did it. With all of this complete, you can now arguably play the best skater in the world, Spider-Man. It was pretty insane for the time, but now we're in 1999, where the first Silent Hill game took the world by storm. As you know by now, they're pretty good at secret endings, and even the first game had one. If you were playing the whole story and used the channeling stone in 5 different locations, you'd get abducted. Literally read your memory card and call out what game you're... Throughout the 90s, we had a ton of Star Wars games, including Dark Forces. In one of the levels, you could use the invincibility cheat to jump off the edge of the map. Once you've survived the fall, you can now type in a cheat to climb up walls and enter a hidden room. Most players had no idea, but there's an even deeper secret room hiding inside of here. All you had to do was press the action button and open the door, revealing a chained-up Ewok. He's looking a little... That too, you could get 25 wins... Now, you're probably wondering, who in the world is Chris Houlihan? Well, turns out, before the game released, Nintendo Power Magazine ran a contest, and the grand prize for the winner